So today's Turkish Grand Prix qualifying was incredibly exciting. The first little bit of excitement was when Kamui Kobayashi, on his first lap, I believe, suffered some kind of engine or hydraulic problem. Ended up, it was towards the end of the lap, around turn 13, I believe, and he just lost all power. He was in the sixth gear, his engine just died. So he tried coasting back to the pits, and he actually made it through the pit lane entrance, but there's a certain line where cars have to cross, and I believe it's the same line that they use for the speed limiter. For those people who aren't super familiar with F1, like all other motorsports, when they enter the pit lane, they have to be going a certain speed. And I believe it was the same line where they have to activate their speed limiter or start going under 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles per hour that they need to pass in order to carry on. The crews can come out and push the cars back to the pit lane, back to the garage, but they have to cross a certain line. I think it's the same speed line, and he wasn't able to make it. He stopped just short. So he was not able to participate further in qualifying, but the stewards ended up let him participate in the race tomorrow, namely because he had already set times. He had set times during the first few practice sessions, so it's up to the stewards. They can say, okay, we know this driver is able to participate. We know he's going to be within the 107% rule if he had, been able to finish Q1, so they let him in. Jerome D'Ambrosio got a penalty, a 5-place grid penalty. He'd only qualified 20th. So that puts him right at the back of the pack at 24th. I'm not really sure what his penalty was for. Let's see if I can look that up real quick. But anyways, he will start 24th. News. Oh, yeah, I had read that. It was ignoring yellow flags. So he had not adequately slowed down when they were waving yellow flags. I'm assuming during qualifying, second practice, so it was when Pastor Maldonado spun his car, so that was quite early in the weekend. Actually took place on Friday, but anyways, moving on. So that was interesting. There was a bit of a different order in the new cars there towards the back. Hispania, which has usually been towards the end, but Vincentonio Liuzzi with Hispania actually qualified ahead of Timo Glock with Virgin. So, starting to kind of mix it up there, with Hispania being in front of the fastest Hispania being in fastest of the frontest Virgin, and actually D'Ambrosio was faster than Liuzzi. But anyways, mixing it up there a little bit in the mid-pack. And of course the two Lotus cars are more than a second faster than the fastest other new teams. And actually they were only about 1.2 seconds off of the Toro Rossos. So they're getting... Heikki Kovalainen was very close to making it into Q2. So they are getting progressively closer towards being able to really challenge the midfield pack. And they're going to be there. I mean, it's pretty clear that they're moving in the right direction. So really cool stuff there. The real surprise in Q2 was that Rubens Barrichello did not make it into Q3, but he is there at 11th. So he gets the people who start outside the top 10 get to pick their tires. If you make it to Q3, whatever tires you set your fastest lap on during Q3, you have to run for the race. So Rubens Barrichello can, he saved a set of soft tires by not making it to Q3. So he can put on a brand new set of soft tires, have it go. They're expecting a minimum of 3 pit stops tomorrow. Some teams will have 4. So he gets to play out that strategy. He can say, hey, I'm going to do, 1 or 2 really short, quick runs on soft tires, and then kind of shift on to a longer tire strategy with some hard tires. It's up to him. He gets to make that choice. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to really move there. The Renaults Felipe Massa only qualified 10th. I'm trying to see. 126.3. So Massa's had some kind of post-qualifying penalty. Because his time would put him actually still only 8th. 126.3. Yeah, so troubles there for Felipe Massa. And the Renaults were really struggling. We'd seen them kind of up towards the front of the, Q3 in some races this season, but they struggled, only managing 7th and 9th with Petrov leading Heidfeld. So a little bit of work there. And Schumacher only managed to qualify 8th. Going into this weekend, I think the orthodoxy of the season held, which was that the two Red Bulls, Vettel first, Webber second, were going to be followed very closely behind by the McLarens. And what we saw here, and what was very evident even from the first couple practice sessions, was that Mercedes GP, namely Rosberg, but Schumacher to some extent, had the power to challenge and even beat McLaren's, and that's what happened in Q3 in the last part of qualifying. Vettel has pole, Webber is second, but Rosberg is third for the first time this season as far as qualifying goes, and he's only half a second off of Vettel, but more importantly, only a 10th behind Webber. So if Rosberg's able to get, a good start or a good run, and of course, Rosberg will be on the same side of the track as Vettel. So if Rosberg can get the jump on Webber at the start, and Webber has had some pretty rough starts lately, there's a chance that Rosberg could maybe grab a first or a second. He's definitely looking good for the podium. Lewis Hamilton, it has to be said, is not that far behind. 20 hundredths of a second behind. So just right behind him. But nevertheless, good stuff from Rosberg. So I'd say Rosberg definitely gets my drive of the day for qualifying. I think people to watch for the race are going to be Rosberg, Vettel, obviously, Rubens Barrichello starting 11th and having the tire choice, and then Heikki Kovalainen. I would like to see him really challenge the Toro Rossers and even the Saubers. I think they've reached that critical point where they can put in a really good race and start to pick off some of those more experienced teams. So, anyways, that's just a little bit of what happened during qualifying in Istanbul Park. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon.